Hello, everyone, and welcome to our training today. Today, we're talking about the CARES Act. We are talking about everything you need to know as of March 15th, 2020. We've been talking about this for a while, but a lot of changes have taken place, and I want to give everybody an update on everything from the PPP loans to the economic injury disaster loans to checks that should be in the mail if they're not in the mail to you already, and everything you need to know about being a small business owner through the coronavirus and how to access the funds that are now available with SBA. I won't spend a lot of time introducing myself. My name's Ty Crandall. I'm CEO at Credit Suite. If we can help you along the way, this is what we do. We help business owners get capital. We do it by improving your fundability to make you more lendable, by helping you build business credit for your EIN that's not linked to your personal social, and by accessing all forms of capital, including SBA loans, in one place. So our information will be on the bottom of our slides. If you're watching live, you can give us a call at 877-600-2487 or visit us online at creditsuite.com/get funding. So, look, a lot of things are changing. We're still seeing changes here with the actual underwriting requirements for these loans. But for the most part, I feel like we are 90 to 95% of the way there, meaning that this act was actually released. Then what happened was SBA created guidelines, which took place about 2 weeks ago, and now there's been minor changes as these loans have started to roll out and they've started to discover new problems, and lobbyists have started to get to Senator Rubio down here in Florida and say they want to get their hands in the money, and more things have been added. A lot of things have changed since the actual underwriting guidelines were released, but this is going to be very up to date. And again, 90 to 95%, I feel closer to 95% of what I'm going to say here won't change because there's very few changes that still need to be take place for you to actually get your funding. As a matter of fact, funding in a lot of these programs is already being distributed at this point. So let's give an overview, right? This was actually for coronavirus relief. Okay, the bill addressed economic impact of otherwise responded to COVID-19. The bill authorizes emergency loans to distressed businesses. Okay, and with respect to small businesses, the bill establishes and provides funding for forgivable bridge loans and provides additional funding for grants and technical assistance, all of which we're going to talk about today. Look, I have read the 880-page bill, and I can tell you there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't matter to us. There's a lot of stuff with airlines, industry, big businesses, enterprise businesses that we could talk about for hours. But this is only to tell you the information that I believe is relevant to small businesses defined as having 500 employees or less. So an overview, there is tax payments coming out. So you have a $1,200 tax rebate, as we've heard a lot about being issued to individuals. Okay, from what I saw today, March 15th, about 80 million of Americans already have those checks being drawn and on the way. So those are going to come probably as soon as next week. $1,200 per individual, $500 per qualifying child. The main qualification is that your income needs to be less than $75,000. If it's $75,000 to $99,000, the amount of the check you get will be reduced, and over $99,000, you will not expect a check. So you will not be getting a check in. Actually, it's not even a check. It's going to be money, I believe it's direct deposited into your bank account. So you won't get those funds if your income is too high. Okay, with respect to taxes, this bill establishes special rules for certain tax-favored withdrawals from retirement plans, so it makes it easier to get into your retirement plan to get the money you need without paying taxes on that. You also have delays due to dates for employer payroll taxes, so in a lot of states and federally, we're seeing these delays where we don't have to pay our income taxes, for example, when we actually had to before. Okay, also revisions and other provisions, including those related to losses, charitable deductions, and other things. So there's other things, for example, a lot of charities are taking a big hit right now. So they made it easier to have deductions on your taxes if you're contributing money to charities right now. So those are some of the changes as well. And the bill authorizes the Department of Treasury to temporarily guarantee money market funds as well. So a lot of things that are made available to help ease what we're going through. Now, let's talk about the main loan that we've talked about a little bit before, the PPP loans. Okay, so the Paycheck Protection Program is the main funding program right now where you can actually get money from the federal government. It's tough. A lot of people are in a holding pattern with banks, so we're going to talk about how to get through that holding pattern, who's succeeding and who's not succeeding with getting money right now. So this is lenders delegated with authority from SBA. We have a link up at creditsuite.com/PPP. And on there, when it talks about applying, I put a list there of 100 top SBA lenders that you can actually access. So you can get, there's now 2,400 plus lenders have actually now submitted applications for the PPP loan. Usually there's about 1,800 SBA delegated authority. So SBA has really opened it up to allow a lot of other companies. Yesterday, PayPal was approved to help with these PPP loans. Okay, so they let the lenders determine eligibility and creditworthiness. So they're supplying the guidelines to the lender's making the decision, and they can do it without going through SBA channels. Let me explain why this is such a big deal. Historically, what happens with an SBA loan is you come in, it looks like you qualify, the bank you have to qualify for, you have to qualify with SBA. This is why the process takes so long, because SBA and the bank you have to qualify for. In this case, the SBA has given the banks the underwriting guidelines and the authority to originate these loans without running them back through SBA. They still have to go through SBA's E-Trans system, their electronic system, but again, it doesn't slow down the process like it does for normal SBA loans. Okay, so a big difference there in exactly how you're actually able to get this. Now, they could do so without going through SBA channels, as I mentioned, and again, if you want to access our broker that's helping with these or more information, we've created a lot at creditsuite.com/PPP. So you know exactly what you need to know. Now, how will banks evaluate borrower eligibility? This is what it comes down to. It's pretty simple. If you were in business before February 15th and you had people on your payroll before that, then you can qualify. It's that simple. And how much you're going to get is going to depend on how big your payroll is. I mean, if you have less than 500 employees, you're in business by February 15th, and you actually paid employees at that point in time, you can qualify. Okay, now they do have some description in there about the NAICS code. So what they're saying is, hey, you can't have employees that are way out of line for your industry code. This is pretty interesting here because I teach about NAICS codes a lot. And what I talk about is I talk about the very importance of you choosing the right NAICS code for your business. And if you don't know how to do this, go to youtube.com/Credit Suite and you can search our channel for NAICS code videos that we teach how to do this. And this is one of the reasons why it's such a big deal, because what they're saying is if you're showing employees that are way out of line with your industry standard per your NAICS code, it can create an issue. But if you're not and you have less than 500 employees, then you can qualify to be able to get this money. So how much money can you get? This hasn't changed. You can get 2.5 times the amount of your average total monthly payments for payroll. But let me tell you what has changed. It used to be when the bill first came out that it was all of your what you paid in payroll for 2019. The underwriting guidelines from SBA now say over the last 12 months. Okay, so that being said, over the last 12 months, we look at the last 12 months of what you paid for payroll. Then we divide it by 12, right? So we look, okay, January, February, March, April, May, December. 12 months, I paid X amount of dollar each month. We add it up. We divide it by 12 to figure out our monthly average, and we just simply multiply that times 2.5 times. That's how we figure out how much money we're going to get. There's also an EIDL, an economic injury disaster loan. I have emergency injury disaster loan, but that's not correct. It's actually the EIDL. It's the economic injury disaster loan. If you did get one of these loans, they roll that into your loan as well. So you have the balance of whatever EIDL loan you have plus that 2.5 times your average payroll. I'm going to talk about the EIDL loan here in a minute because that's changed. It used to be that you could get like really high amounts and you can't anymore, and I'm going to explain that to you in just a few minutes. Okay, and there are special rules for seasonal employers and businesses not in existence before this, but there's very few businesses that are in that section, so I'm not even going to speak to that today. And Callie says, thank you for your time and info. Hey, thank you. I appreciate you tuning in. So payroll cost, okay, so this is everything that's associated with your payroll. So they're going to add this up and multiply it times 2.5 times. It's basically the salaries, the wages you paid, the tips, the vacation, parental family leave, payment for provision of group health insurance, retirement benefits, state and local taxes, okay? And they're going to exclude anybody that has income over 50,000. They're going to over 100,000. They're going to exclude that income. So let's say, for example, your income is $200,000. They're going to exclude 100 of that and only take 100,000 of that into the payroll calculation. So they exclude any amount above $100,000. They're going to exclude. Okay, outside of that, that is how they're going to calculate what your actual payroll is. So compensation of individual over 100,000 is excluded, as I mentioned. FICA taxes are excluded as well. Any compensation for an employee whose principal place of residence is outside the U.S. If their home address is outside the U.S., they are excluded as well. Qualified sick leave or family leave wages where a credit is allowed under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. I don't even mention this because it appeals to so few people. But the first three, the income over 100 grand, the FICA taxes, and the residence outside of the United States, is very relative to a lot of you. Okay, so how can you use the money? You can see I have a big strike through here because some things have changed, and I wanted to, instead of just delete it, I want to show you that things have changed so you're aware of the changes. So they're going to add up your payroll costs. You can use the money for payroll. You can use the money for anything associated with payroll, such as sick leave and family leave and group health insurance. You can use it for salaries, commissions. All that really calculates as payment or payroll. You can also exclude interest on mortgages and your rent payment and utilities. Now, when the bill first came out, it said that you could exclude interest on any other debt obligation that you brought in before, but they have now excluded that. You cannot. So what you can now use the money for is payroll. You could pay rent, you could pay interest on a mortgage, and you could pay your utilities. That's what the money is actually to be used for. And if you use it for this, you could get it 100% forgiven. I'm about to teach you how to do that. Now, you're going to have to sign a good faith acknowledgement basically stating that you've been adversely affected by the coronavirus, that you're going to use the funds to retain workers, that the eligible recipient, that you do not have an application pending for a loan under the subsection for the same purpose. Very important. So a lot of people right now are trying to figure out what to do because they're trying to put a loan through their bank, and so they're applying at multiple different places. Let me explain to you where it's going to create an issue, the good and bad of that. First of all, I'm not here to tell you what to do or how to do it, okay? But I will tell you this. If you have two loans put through their E-Trans system into SBA, it could very well and probably will trigger a fraud alert. So is it okay to apply with multiple places? A lot of people are asking me this question. The answer is yes, kind of, meaning that you cannot have multiple applications submitted to SBA. That is a problem, and if it does, it's going to create a fraud alert and could completely ruin your ability to get this loan. So if you're going to submit an application through multiple banks, you need to make sure that you have the ability to stop the application with that bank upon request. So let me give you an example. We have our application in two places. We submitted it through our bank regions. We don't have confidence in big banks. So we submitted it through our SBA broker to a small community bank. Just as we thought would happen, the small community bank is moving much faster. As a matter of fact, I just read an article before I started this, literally from Yahoo Money today, 20 hours ago. These four businesses that have received the coronavirus loans had one thing in common: small banks. This is what I've been saying for weeks. The trend is that the small community banks are the ones that are getting the applications through and money faster. So we chose to apply at our bank. We chose to apply through our broker at a small community bank. We have not heard anything in weeks on the application through the bank. Our banker won't talk to us, etc. So many people in the same boat. The small community bank, we made huge progress. We got everything submitted. They came back a week later and they said, hey, we have a new application. We have a new process. We need new documentation. They gave it to us and we went through and got all the new documentation. We uploaded the new application. That was 1 day ago, and we expect our loan to be sent into SBA this week, and we have still not heard from our bank. So if this happens and our loan gets submitted through SBA system, we will immediately go to our bank and say, please withdraw our application. We do not want to apply it through regions. Now, we asked them before if we could do that. We do have the ability to do that. So we're going to withdraw our application once we know that whatever application we got there first is submitted through SBA. And I'm going to tell you why that is so important. It's so important because what happens right now is a lot of people are submitting to places online that aren't even submitting your application anywhere. And it's so sad. I see this happening at huge numbers, meaning there's a lot of online lenders and sources that are letting you apply through them. But the sad part is they don't have anywhere to send your loan. That's the real reality. And I know this because they're contacting us. Like, we've had contacts from online sources that say we have 15,000 SBA loan applications with documents and we have no bank to send them to. So you have to be really careful. It's okay to apply multiple sources, but you need to be able to withdraw that application so you don't trigger a fraud alert and not more than one gets sent in to actual SBA. So you know that, okay? And you're also going to have to test through February 15th to December 2020 that you have not received duplicate amounts for the same purpose. You just basically cannot get multiple loans is what they're saying. So requirement fees, it's non-recourse. There's no personal guarantee from you, and there's no fee charged through the bank or through SBA through June 30th. Okay, deferral of payment. You do not have to make a payment for 6 months. Originally, when this came out, they said 6 to 12 months. Now we know it's 6 months. You do not have to make a payment for the first 6 months. I'm going to show you right now how to never need to make a payment. So the loan that you're getting will be fully forgiven if within the first 8 weeks you are using the money 75% or more towards payroll. Some things have changed here, so I'm going to update you and tell you what's going on. So at least 75% of the money you get must be spent within the first 8 weeks on payroll. Okay, you also, and I'll talk to you, you need to make sure that you are remaining the compensation and employee levels the same. I'll talk to you more about that in a minute. And you can use up to 25% of the money on rent, mortgage interest, and utilities. So let me give you a simple example. Let's say somebody gets a $100,000 loan from this program. Then you need to spend $75,000 or more on payroll cost over the next 8 weeks. You have then up to $25,000, up to 25% you can spend on utilities, rent, and mortgage. Now let me explain why this is already creating a problem. The very first people that got these loans were in serious trouble. Like, for example, one of them was a brewer. They brew beer. So they have people that come in, they drink their beer at the brewery, etc. Well, they're shut down. They're non-essential. So the office isn't even open. Now think about this for a second. They got their loan already. Let's say, I think it was a week ago. They got their loan a week ago, and within 8 weeks, they need to spend it on payroll. But here's the problem. They're not open. They're not essential. They're not going to be open. So it's really tough for them to have the loan forgiven, because what's going to happen is they might not even be able to open till 6 to 7 weeks after they got their money. So I think this might change, because the reality is the people that are getting the money right away and the ones that are in really bad shape, they can't spend the money on payroll because they're still shut down. They're not even allowed to be open yet. So it's going to be interesting to see if this changes or not, but currently you could see the problem. It's almost sometimes a curse to get the money early, because when you get the money early, you have to spend it within 8 weeks for that money to be forgiven, and that's pretty tough to do if your business is actually closed, if you're not generating actual income, etc. Okay, so again, forgiveness, something to think about here, because you need to spend that money within the first 8 weeks to have that money actually given for those purposes. Now, that being said, here's what has changed, and it's a pretty big deal. You have to maintain the number of staff. You have to maintain the level of payroll. That means the head count, how many people you have on your team. And it also means what you're paying them. You can't reduce their wages by 25% or not. If you've done this, then you have until June 30th to restore your full payroll. This wasn't like it before. Before, when the bill was first passed, you had until the loan was issued, meaning they looked at your head count and level of payroll when the loan was issued. Now they've changed it to they're looking at it all the way back to February 15th through April 26th. They're looking at how many people you had in your payroll levels between February 15th and April 26th, and you have to restore it to those levels to have that money forgiven. Now, we still do not know what will happen if you don't do this. Let's say that you do need to lay some people off because, again, they are no longer needed in the organization. You don't need the staff levels you have. What we believe will happen is they will reduce the amount of forgiveness you get. So let's say that same example. I have $100,000. I used $75,000 for payroll, $25,000 for my rent, my mortgage interest, or my utilities as I'm allowed to. Okay, but now let's say that I reduced my payroll. I had to let 5 people go because they're no longer needed in my organization. Well, what they're saying here is that if I did that, then the amount of money that I get forgiven, even though I used all the money right on that $100,000, I'm still not going to get $100,000 forgiven. It's going to be less than that with this example because I let people go. I had to let people go. Now, how much less will be forgiven, we don't know yet. We're still waiting to figure that out. But what we do know is if you don't maintain the number of employees and the salary levels you have, it will reduce the amount of money that is forgiven. We just don't know how much it will reduce that amount amount as of yet. But we do know that if you restore your payroll before June 30th, then again, that whole loan can be forgiven. So again, we already talked about what it's used for: utilities, rent, interest on mortgages, payroll cost. If you do that, the loan can actually be forgiven. Okay, you're going to solicit the servicer, whoever issued your loan, for forgiveness. They have 60 days to review your documents and forgive you. So let's look at this and think about this time frame. You don't have to make a payment for 6 months. Within 2 months, 8 weeks, they want you to spend the money on payroll and also to cover rent, mortgage interest, and utilities. Then you have 2 months for the lender to review what you spent the money on to then forgive the loan. So what this means is it means you never even need to make a payment on the loan. It becomes a complete grant if you did what I told you, which is spend up to 75% or more of the money on payroll and up to 25% on other things, including rent, mortgage interest, or utilities. If you're doing that, then you never need to even make a first payment the way that this whole thing is set up. Okay, so who can make these loans? Well, right now, as you know, the banks are overwhelmed. The lending system is overwhelmed. There's no secret to this, right? If you've looked at this at all, then you already know that right now, anywhere you see on the news, the banking system is overwhelmed. Here's my advice. Right now, I've said this for weeks. The news continues to come back and say this more and more. Small community banks are the ticket. They're the place you want to go. So if you have a relationship with your bank, get your application in if you haven't already. Small community banks are your best shot. Small credit unions are your best shot. Then you get into the big banks, and it's a mess right now. And nobody knows what's going to happen with the big banks. They're still trying to process the overwhelming volume of applications that they have. You need to be very cautious when you're applying through online sources. If they are not a major bank, you need to be cautious because, again, what we've seen is that a lot of sources are accepting applications, brokers, other sources that are anything to do with business funding. They're accepting his applications and they don't even have a place to put them. So if you're putting an inquiry online, not submitting income docs, you should do research. If you do a search right now, let's say PayPal. Let's say PayPal says, hey, I want you to submit an SBA loan through us. Well, then I would come here and I would do a simple Google search and just say SBA, PPP, PayPal. Does PayPal have the authority to even do these loans? Okay, and then let's look and see if they do or not. So here we go. Terms and conditions, loan subject to SBA approval. Top stories. PayPal, Intuit, and Square approved to offer loans to small business. So you can see in one easy search, the news told me that they are approved. But if I am searching for a company before I'm going to submit an application online, I'm going to do this Google search to see if they are authorized to issue these loans or not. If they're not, don't submit an application or don't expect much. Those guys are trying to find banks to place these loans with right now, and the banks are already overwhelmed. So just because people are accepting PPP applications doesn't mean your application is going anywhere. You should Google the source. If it's not a bank like PayPal, the news verifies here that they actually do have the ability to offer those loans, then you're safe. If you do that search and you don't find that, well, then you got to be really cautious because you could be submitting an application that's not going to go anywhere. Okay, if you creditsuite.com/PPP has information as well. We've got information on our broker as well. Our broker charged us $2,000. He charges everybody that. We paid it. We don't care because it gave us the best chance of getting approved. So I put my broker's information there that'll help you. I also included a list of SBA's top 100 lenders that can help you at creditsuite.com/PPP as well. So that makes it a little bit easier for you to come in and be able to access what you actually need, so that way you can actually get the funding that you need and not get stuck in this whole mess. Okay, so let's talk about EIDLs. A lot has changed here. These are big changes over the last week. I'm going to introduce them to you. So they also have economic injury disaster loans. This was the first $50 billion that was put into the system. Small businesses, small agricultural cooperatives, small agricultural businesses, and most private nonprofit organizations can qualify. Okay, so this is if you're directly affected by what's going on. Your revenues decreased, your expenses increased, etc., etc. Okay, you're going to have to meet their normal credit requirements. So if you haven't built your business credit, you should give us a ring at 877-600-2487. Most SBA loans, you need to have your business credit built to get. They have eased the restrictions on the credit requirements for these loans. Okay, and You can be eligible if you are in a location, a county that is declared an emergency county, which almost all counties are. Amounts you can borrow, they say you can borrow up to $2 million. And they say that interest rates are 3.75% for profit, 2.75% for nonprofit loan terms of over up to 30 years. I'm about to tell you what's really going on with these loans here in just a minute, because I'll tell you the reality. The reality is right now they're going to give you up to $15,000 as a loan. They're going to give you up to $10,000 as a grant. It's $1,000 per employee you have. So if you have five employees, you can get a loan up to 15 grand and $5,000 in a grant with this program, from what we've actually seen really happen. So they came in originally and said up to 2 million. We have seen them cap loans at 15 grand. We've seen them cap grants at 10 grand and only $1,000 per employee. That's the reality. So this up to 2 million is a myth. What they said originally is not the case. Way different when they're capping loans at $15,000. You can use it to pay fixed debts, to pay payroll, to pay bills that cannot be paid, like interest that you have on mortgages, or other utilities, interest you have on other debt payments, etc., etc. Now they do require a collateral over $25,000, but it doesn't matter, because like I said, they're capping loans at $15,000 from what we've seen. So you're not even going to get a loan over 15 grand. If you did get a loan over 25 grand, they're going to ask for real estate, any commercial, residential real estate that you have, any other kind of thing that you could serve as collateral. They're going to grab all that as collateral, but they're not going to deny the loan because you don't have collateral. But again, none of that means anything when they're topping out their loans at $15,000. And this is exactly what I'm saying, is that currently we're seeing loans capped at 15 grand. We're seeing loan grants capped at $1,000 per employee with a max cap of $10,000. Here are ineligible entities. If you're a casino, a racetrack, real estate developer, gambling, religious organization, agricultural enterprise, you cannot qualify. But here's the deal. Even though religious and charitable organizations are excluded, they can still qualify for the PPP program. Religious organizations are included in the PPP program we talked about before, even if they are excluded here, okay? So funds come from the Treasury. There's the link to get approved, disasterloan.sba.gov. Okay, no cost to apply, no obligation. Okay, and again, they're going to, everything you need application-wise is right there. There's going to be a box you're going to check to actually get the grant up to $10,000 online. And here you can take a screenshot of this. Here's all the information you actually need to apply. Disasterloan.sba.gov. You can also go to sba.gov/disaster to download an application. Okay, and you can also, there's the address to mail your completed applications and their customer service line. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine right now trying to get through to SBA's customer service line? If anybody's tried that, please email us, info@creditsuite.com. I'm curious just to see what your wait time is with SBA's customer service. I'd love to know that if anybody has that information. Okay, so assistance from SBA partners, they score, WBC, Small Business Development. These are all places that can help you if you need assistance with these loans. Again, guys, it's up to you. I use a broker. I pay my broker. I pay him $2 grand. He handled our EIDL loan. He handled our grant. He handled my last S7A loan. He handled our PPP loan. That's just the way I do business. I work with brokers because they have a lot of sources they work with. Like my broker has like 10 different community banks, so he had no problem getting our stuff in when everybody else is getting stuck. So again, creditsuite.com/PPP. Look for a broker. These are other sources that can help you there as well if you're having a hard time. So again, recap, you got to get your application in now. A lot of things are changing. The interesting thing is I stopped seeing them say how much money was guaranteed. But to give you an idea, $349 billion was set aside for this program. By Wednesday, they released the program on Friday. So Friday, Monday, Tuesday, 3 business days into this, SBA had said they'd already guaranteed $90 billion. Just to give you an idea. So 3 days in, they'd already guaranteed a third of the money that the entire bill had. and then everybody said 250 more billion is coming, and then that was shut down, right? The government, they wouldn't even vote on that. So that's not coming right now. It could come in the future, but it's not. So we expect that this money will be taken, and what we expect to have happen is there will be hundreds of thousands of people that applied for the money that never ended up getting the money. Okay, 350, 30, 49 billion doesn't even scratch the surface on what they really need. So if you haven't got your application in now, then you need to. You need to find a community bank right away or a broker that can streamline your application. If you don't do that, if you haven't done that, then I would say by the end of the week, you might as well as not even apply. You're not going to have any chance of getting in as fast as this money is probably going. So remember, if we can ever help you with money, let us know. We don't charge any money on the actual funding that we help you get. Sometimes lenders pay us a referral fee. We work with every legitimate funding program. Our most popular right now is $150,000 worth of credit lines you can get based on you having good personal credit or a guarantor having good personal credit. 0% rates for up to 18 months. No doc financing. Doesn't matter your industry. Doesn't matter if you're nonprofit. You don't need bank statements. You don't need revenue to get approved. It's one of the best programs that we're actually seeing out there right now to help business owners get money. So if we can help you with any of this, you can go to our resource, creditsuite.com/PPP, to get all the stuff you need on the PPP loan, including our slide deck, our webinars with all the details, everything you'll need. You can also just give us a ring at 877-600-2487. Email us, info@creditsuite.com, or go to creditsuite.com/get funding to get funding. Look, guys, SBA is just a smidgen of the loans that are out there right now. We're dealing with all kinds of loans, from 401k, stock, bond, IRA financing, account receivable financing, purchase order financing, equipment leasing, equipment sale leaseback programs. We do inventory financing. We're helping e-commerce companies get all the money they need to buy their inventory to sell at places like Amazon. Amazon's crushing it right now. We've got a program that gets 100% of the money you need within a day to buy your inventory that you sell on Amazon, and then you sell it on Amazon and you pay back the loan as you actually got the money. So there's so many unique kinds of financing out there, from business credit to the credit line hybrid, where you can get $150,000 credit line, no doc. There's still revenue lending and cash flow financing that's taking place out there as well. Commercial real estate financing. You can still get money to flip residential homes. You can still borrow against your current home and get money out that way. On and on and on. I mean, we've got over 35 programs that are still active where people are getting a lot of money right now. So if we can help you access money with or even outside of the SBA loans, just give us a ring. We can talk to you more about that. And then follow us online, creditsuite.com, top right of our page. You'll see that we're going live now all the time. We go live on YouTube now twice a week. We go live on YouTube at 1 o'clock on Tuesday, 11 o'clock on Wednesday every week. We go live on Facebook at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, and we also go live on Facebook at 11 o'clock on Thursday. And at 11:30, we go live on Instagram. Not to mention that we have daily tips on our Twitter, on my LinkedIn account, on our actual Facebook page, as well as Instagram. So if we can help you, just go to creditsuite.com. You can even get our podcast. It has over 300,000 downloads to give you an idea of the popularity of our podcast, and you can listen to us on the fly. So don't forget, if we can help you, 877-600-2487, or visit us online, creditsuite.com. Clive says you don't need tax return to qualify for PPP. If you go to creditsuite.com/PPP, I'm going to show you this right now, then what you'll find is we actually have a real list of documents that you really do need. So let me pull that up right now and I'll show you. If you go to creditsuite.com/PPP, and it says down here, let me see, who can apply, how to apply, documentation needed, and I go to click here. Here's the real documents you need. Now, a lot of banks are asking you for way more than you need right now. And the reason that they're doing that is because they're trying to slow down the applications. They're getting overwhelmed. So they're asking for way more documentation than you need to slow down the process. But here's what my broker actually requested from us. Paycheck Protection Plan application. You can click here to download it. There's 2 forms that show your payroll numbers. One for last year, one for this year. I got the links. I got the forms from the IRS and put them on our server and gave you links. Like, it's just super simple. That way you could just easily click to download them. You need a payroll report, monthly payroll report. You need a driver's license and a voided check of where the money's going to go. This is all that was really needed for us to submit our loan. That's it. Now, a lot of places are asking you for tax return and other stuff. That's not what we needed to get our loans submitted. Okay, so this is the stuff that you really need, but your bank may require more stuff. I can't tell you that, but I can give you the actual forms that you're really going to need to get this submitted, Clive, and this is it. creditsuite.com/PPP. Under the button, documentation needed, click here, grab the checklist. The checklist has the actual links that you can go through to access that information. All right, I don't see any other questions coming in. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. If we can help you, give us a ring, and don't forget to check out our Paycheck Protection Program details at creditsuite.com/PPP. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.